I got introduced to this in an unusual way because it could have went either or, but I thank God that it went the way that has ended up really being favorable, because that experience that I went through really has brought me to a place in my life to where I've used it time and time again when I minister along the line of faith. And I use it. Now, there have been a lot of things that have happened and God has done, but I use this particular experience because this was where I got started at. Several years ago, I was listening to a minister on television. And, I was young in the Lord. I don't remember exactly how young, but I was fairly young in the Lord. Didn't really understand a whole lot of things. And so as I was listening to him, this particular minister, he gives examples. And I love the way the examples that he gives, because it helps, it was helping me to understand from a practical standpoint of what he was really talking about. But it just so happened the example, now he was talking about faith, but it just so happened the example that he gave actually fit a situation that I had going on in my life at that time. And so my eyes were my eyes was on, but it perked up even more when the example he used was exactly where I was. And this is what he said, talking about faith. He said, say, for instance, that you had a growth on your hand. Well, I got a growth on my hand. Now, it wasn't anything that was malignant or something that, but it was there. And he said, say, for instance, you had a growth in your hand. He said, well, what you would do is, he said, you would lay hands on it, curse it, command it to wither, to dry up and die, and never to return. And from that day forth, the day you pray, you lay hands on it, the day you pray, you are never to ask God to heal that growth on your hand. Because for you to go back, when you pray in the prayer of faith, if you ask today and next week you ask again, you're not in faith. Why? Because I have to believe I received when I prayed. See, child of God, now see, this is important, because I want you to understand that this is how the enemy is able to shake the foundation of our faith. See, because, listen, he takes advantage of our lack of knowledge. And that's the very thing that God is endeavoring to get to us, is knowledge and understanding. So I laid hands on it. I had recorded the message, so I played it back because I wanted to make sure that I understood. I really was going to see what this is going to work. That's the bottom line. I played it back. I understood exactly what he said. I laid hands on it. I commanded the wither to dry up and die and never to return. And then he said, from this day forth, or from that day that you do that, you are never to ask God again. That was November the 9th. November the 10th. Father, I thank you that I believe I received. Well, that growth's still there. November the 10th. Father, I thank you that I believe I received. I believe I received my healing on November the 9th. Okay, well, we're going on up into December now. Father, I thank you that on November the 9th, I believe that I received. That growth is still there. Nothing has happened. And in some cases, the situation that you're dealing with may even intensify. Now watch this. Unshaken faith. See, there is a consistency to unshaken faith. Now, that may not be a consistency in your situation, but there is always should be a consistency in our faith. So I continue to declare, and I'm telling you, my mind could not process this, because I'm saying I believe something and yet I'm seeing something contrary to that. You better hear what I'm telling you now, because some of you right now are in situations now. God has said something in his word, and that thing is speaking louder to you than what the word, or are you allowing the word to speak to you? I laid hands on it every day. Father, I thank you that I believe I received my healing on November the 9th. I'm all up into December now. Father, I thank you that I believe I received my healing. God, I thank you that I believe I received my healing. And most time when I would make that confession, of course, my mind wants to look at and see, is it gone? So I remember one day I was coming home from work, had my hand on the steering wheel there, just about or in the midst of confessing that, and I noticed that growth was gone. Now I'm young, you know what I'm saying? I'm excited, man. I mean, hey, it's on now. I mean, hey, I done tapped into something. This stuff really, really works. So I arrived, I made it home, and I told Pastor, I said, look, I said, well, listen, let's write Dr. Price a letter and give a testimony. Because at that time, we were receiving his monthly magazine called The Messengers. And I noticed in the Messenger magazine, they would have different testimonies that people would have, where they, believe God for something based on some teaching that Dr. Price had done. And as a result of that, they wrote in and gave their testimony. Well, we wrote, sent the testimony in and everything, and we received a letter back saying, well, hey, we rejoice with you in your healing, and we want to put your testimony in our magazine, our monthly magazine. Well, hey, you know what I'm saying? And so, and they wanted a picture and all this, and of course, I had to give them permission to do all this, and so sent it back. Again, I'm all excited, man. I mean, I'm on a cloud, man. I'm floating, man. I mean, I feel like a spiritual giant. And so here I am now. I'm in a place now where I'm waiting for the magazine to come back. Because I want to show this. I mean, you can tell people, and all this, but then when you produce the magazine, then of course it's like, as proof, that it's legitimate. So here I am waiting, anticipating the magazine to come back, and I think, if my memory served me correctly, that next month, which I thought that it was going to come, it didn't. So it came on the following month. And so here I am. I'm no longer confessing. I believe I received. See, because what we confess that we believe, if we'll hold fast to it, we'll no longer have to believe it, we can know it. See, it's the difference between believing something and knowing something. And so, would you believe that here I am waiting for this magazine to come back, and that growth came back on my hand? Now, I don't know when it came back. I didn't feel anything, but I noticed that growth was back on my hand. Now, I'm confused. I'm young. I don't know a whole lot about this. All of a sudden now, the cloud has dissipated. Amen. I'm confused. I don't know what's going on now. All I know is when I sent that letter off, or when Pastor dictated that letter and sent it off, all I know is, and she's my witness, that it was gone. Well, now here I am. I went from anticipating the magazine to come back until, hold up, we need to wait until, because I didn't have any control over that. And would you believe that in the midst of that growth come back on my hand, and that magazine came? I can't go show nobody this magazine. Somebody look at me and mess your magazine. Them folks ain't gonna be looking at that magazine, they're gonna be looking at my hand. So I mean, and you have to imagine. Now listen, I'm young in this. It's a whole lot I don't understand. So I'm really confused now. I mean, I felt, the enemy began to do, work on my mind, that God set me up. He's trying to embarrass me and make fun of me and all this stuff, And I started kind of entertaining some of this stuff, and I think this is where people, they get upset with God, they get mad with God, they blame God. And I thank God that he put a person in my life, Sister Marisha's father, Pastor Aaron. He and I used to work together. And I went to him one day. I said, look, Pastor, here's the magazine. I went through the whole spiel. I said, look, this is that. And I just don't understand. I don't know what's going on here, And so here's what he told me. And this is where Hebrews chapter 10, when the scripture says, hold fast to your profession of faith. Actually, the word faith there is not faith the way we're talking about it now. Actually, it's translated hope. It's not a wishing type hope, but it's a hope that's anchored in the word. It says, hold fast to your profession of faith without wavering. For he, that is God, is faithful, that promise. And so his counsel to me was, listen, whatever you were saying before all this, took a turn the way that it did, keep saying it. Keep saying it. And that's exactly what I did. I went, Father, I thank you that I believe I received my healing on November the 9th. Father, I thank you that I believe I received my healing on November the 9th. Now, I don't know how many days later, because I wasn't keeping up with the days now. This ain't no game now. It's serious now. You know, I'm really, you know, working on something here now. And so, so over a period of time, I don't know when, over a period of time, the growth disappeared. And I know, like now, like right now, some of you looking at my hand right now. You know, I know you is. I know you're looking at my hand. But I can tell you this, here we are years later, and the growth has not returned. I said in the growth, it has not returned. How many of you know the devil was trying to shake my faith? I didn't understand all that then. But that's an example of what is meant by his attempt to shake our faith. We got to stay with it. And listen, child of God, there's going to be a many a time that ain't going to look good. Now, listen, listen, it's not going to look good. And some of you are saying right now, Pastor, I'm there right now. But look, listen, let me tell you something. You keep saying what you're saying. You keep doing what you're doing.